Hi everyone. We're going to be doing our student spotlight in just a few moments. I'm going to have Robert Allison join me. Let me just add him in right here. Just wait a few minutes for Robert to come on. Hi Robert, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So we'll wait just a couple minutes for some people to join in if they're available. But for now, we'll kind of just do an introduction and we'll get started then.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, great. So thank you to everyone who is watching right now. If you're not able to catch the video live, we're going to have it on the page later, so no worries about that. Um, I am Taylor Anderson. I am one of the Fully Booked admins, and today I'm here to introduce you to our student spotlight of the week, Robert Allison. Robert is a licensed professional counselor from Denver, Colorado, and we are featuring him this week for his success in the Fully Booked program. So if Robert, you want to start and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and about your practice, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. As you said, I'm in Denver, Colorado. I have an office kind of it's not really a suburb, it's part of Denver, but a more residential neighborhood. It's called the Highlands. I work predominantly with men. I've been licensed for 10 years now. Before I did my private practice, did a bunch of stuff, a lot of community mental health work, some crisis work, some inpatient work. And yeah, so I think I did full-time private practice just in April of this year. I had the practice about 5 years and was kind of doing it part-time and juggling that and also still juggling some agency work at the same time. But
Yeah.
yeah, I work mostly with men, a lot of STEM professionals, not exclusively STEM professionals. I maintain a Medicaid contract too, so I
Okay.
just feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Right, right. Okay, well, that's great. Well, it's great to hear a little bit more about you. So I guess a good place to start would kind of be to talk about what your experience was like before you joined the program. So maybe some of the concerns that you were facing, challenges, frustrations, that kind of thing. What was your experience like before you joined Fully Booked?
Aimless, I think if I sum it up in one word. And like I said, I started it about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And I was actually at that time splitting my time between two community mental health agencies. Had an opportunity to start my own private practice, splitting some office space with a friend, was doing it 2 days a week. I was just kind of pushing whimsy for the longest time and very much riding the ups and downs of private practice. And referrals come when they come, they don't when they don't. It's kind of
Hmm.
cool. I could book one day and then write notes and watch The Walking Dead or whatever on the next day. Yeah, I didn't really have a lot of direction, and I noticed I found fooling myself into productivity a lot. I would spend an entire Wednesday morning looking at my computer and clicking between things. I'd listen to that podcast and watch this thing on YouTube and add a whole bunch of stuff to my work for later folder that I never got around to, and
Hmm.
accomplish absolutely nothing, but felt really good about myself because I filled all this time. And
Yeah,
yeah, wasn't really going anywhere. I was just
yeah.
very much people showed up when they showed up. I got referrals when I got referrals. And if they weren't coming, I was just waiting and hanging out.
Right. So what I'm kind of hearing is that, there was a lot of kind of inconsistency, and so maybe you felt like you were doing a lot, but you didn't have the processes in place to know what was really working and what wasn't. Is that kind of what you're saying?
For sure. Yeah, I think a different way to sum it up, I was very much guilty of playing business rather than running
Mm-hmm.
a business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And have you had experience in running a business before, or is this kind of was private practice your first time kind of taking on
That
a
was,
business?
yeah, that was my first go. I never really even considered running a business. And I think a lot of therapists are maybe guilty of this. I didn't really think about running a private practice as running a business. And even when
Mm-hmm.
I was in graduate school, that was the long-term goal is I'm working for myself, I'm in private practice, but that's just, hey, I'm a therapist. Clients are going to come in, I'm going to do
Yeah.
therapy, and all the actual business ownership and business management, they don't teach that in grad school, at least where I went. And I think a lot of grad schools don't teach that. So yeah, I just never really thought about it as running a business until I was already probably a couple of years into it.
Right, right. I know that is something that a lot of therapists can definitely resonate with. You have that goal of starting your own private practice and kind of having that autonomy in your business, but then you don't really know what that business, what you want it to look like. And you're right, it's not something that you're taught in grad school. So you kind of have to take those extra steps later on to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, I won't pull out my soapbox on that one, but I would love to see some reform in graduate programs where you have to take some business courses too.
Right, right, exactly. Okay, so looking back right now and kind of knowing what you do now, what were you really doing that wasn't working? I know you were saying that it was sort of seeming like you were productive, but you were just kind of playing business. What were kind of some of the things that you were doing that now you look back and kind of realize it probably wasn't the best investment of your time or money even?
Um, I'm a thrifty to a fault. So actually, I think probably one problem is I didn't spend money on anything. I very
Mm-hmm.
much bootstrapped it. I very much did things as economically as possible. So I think one thing, if I had to do it over, I would have really invested money into it up front.
Mm-hmm.
If that's doing things like fully booked, or I mean, talking to an accountant sooner than I did.
Yeah.
There's definitely some money I could have spent that would have been money well spent up front. And other than that, I think the biggest mistake is I just didn't really have a singular focus or a couple things I was really focusing on. I had this very amorphous idea of what I wanted my practice to look like. Um, and even from the get-go, I had a vague idea what kind of clients I wanted to work with, but it really wasn't specific enough.
Mm-hmm.
Just everything was too vague and too ambiguous. And I think the bigger issue is I left it that way for too long. And
Right.
so, all these podcasts and YouTube things and this free workshop and that free worksheet, I just kept accumulating all of these things and kind of checking a lot of boxes, but not really implementing them or putting any
Right.
of them into some sort of coherent path forward.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you're kind of at this point where you know that you want to have a private practice and you know that's what you want to do, but you're not really sure what steps to take, or you're doing a little bit here and a little bit there, like you said, and not really focusing in on one thing. So then you came across Fully Booked, and what kind of made you decide to join, or what made you take that leap?
Well, 2019, I made this commitment in the end of 2018 that 2019, this is a year. I'm going to get my stuff together. I'm going to actually have some focus. I'm going to really have a plan. And I'd looked at John's material for a while. I listened to some of his podcasts. His was some of the free stuff that I would look at and take some pointers out of and not
Mm-hmm.
really move forward with. And I think I got an email from him, and it was, I don't know, I forget what it was called, but he had a free workshop, a free webinar, and I attended that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was probably his pitch for starting Fully Booked. Maybe it was called Fully Booked, maybe it wasn't. And I distinctly remember at the end of it, like, this is something I should sign up for. And I didn't pull the
Mm-hmm.
trigger at that time, and I
Okay.
regretted it. And then I was sharing my office with somebody else, and in February or March, they moved out unexpectedly, and so the office became available full time. And I was kind of busy enough with the 2 days I was there. I felt I was a little more comfortable making that leap into full time, but
Mm-hmm.
then quitting my other agency job, there was a lot of extra income and things to supplement. So what I really wanted to do was find something that was going to give me a system to be able to have referrals consistently and reliably, and to be able to help me expedite that jump from only having 2 days that were pretty full to really doubling that and having 4 days, 4.5 days that are full. Taking the 8, 10, 12 hours of clients I was seeing a week and turning that into 20, 24 hours of clients in a week. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Google Ads was something an idea I've been playing around with for a long time, and Fully Booked seems like it really cut to the heart of that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, digital marketing was an idea I had early in the year that was really the route I wanted to go in trying to build a consistent referral system. So
Mm-hmm.
then I cycled back to it and did a little more research on it and felt like that was the right fit for where I wanted to go. And here I am. Apparently it was right.
Right, right. Oh, good. Well, we're definitely glad that you have had so much success and kind of capitalized on those goals. So as far as your initial goals, once you started the program, how did those change over time? Was there anything that surprised you or anything that was unexpected, or did you kind of stick to what you initially wanted to accomplish?
I more or less stuck to it. And one of the things that surprised me, and this is something I've really been reflecting on just this past week, are a lot of other things that I wanted to get to, but I just didn't have the time for, are a lot easier now. Networking, and I really was kind of siloed in community mental health, where I wasn't networking with kind of the Denver therapist community at large in private practice. And whenever I would think about, I'm going to reach out to somebody, or going to grab coffee, or going to grab lunch, it was like, I don't have time for that. I need to worry about where my next referral is coming from, or I need to catch up on other things. So actually having a little bit of faith and consistency that there's a steady stream of referrals coming in is all right. I could take the time to go have lunch with somebody. I could take the
Mm-hmm.
time to go have coffee with somebody. And I think I was also really underestimating just how stressed I was with trying to track down referrals and find all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something else. It's really nice to be able to take a step back now. And if I look and think, oh, I don't know, today looks kind of light, next week looks kind of light. Am I really going on the right path? I can kind of pull up all these things that I document now and can look at and, all
Mm-hmm.
right, the numbers tell me something other than my subjective experience of just looking at
Right.
my calendar today or tomorrow where that person canceled. I can look at it and go, all right, I can see a trend that things are moving in the right direction. So just
Right.
overall, the kind of space I feel like it's bought me to do other important tasks, and just being able to take a sit back, just kind of step back a little bit. And, all right, it's working. We're going in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that sometimes can be such a difficult thing for therapists is that a lot of therapists want to kind of avoid the numbers because it seems like it would make you more stressed and kind of freak out a little bit more. But actually, whenever you have those processes in place and you kind of know the science behind the numbers, you are able to sort of look at that, and it is sort of almost more soothing in a way to um, have that to look at.
Yeah, and numbers and KPIs, that's one of those things that was really ambiguous and kind of floating in the back of my mind. And I had a client, they were a CFO, and a nice analogy we had in therapy was they're great at the KPIs at work, but what are the KPIs in their private life? And did a lot of good work with that. And I'd often walk out of
Mm-hmm.
those sessions thinking, I wish that I met them at a different point where I could ask them as to what sort of KPIs I should have in my business. But of course I didn't. And here we are now, have some solid ones I can track and follow. And it was nice being able to have some clarity on that.
Mm-hmm. And so now, now that you have worked through the program and you are seeing those results, was there anything when you started the program that felt a little bit challenging to you or kind of put you out of your comfort zone that maybe was a little bit challenging for you at first, but now that you look back, you really, see the success and the results from sort of putting yourself out there in that way?
Copywriting has always been a struggle, and
Mm-hmm.
that was a harsh reality because in graduate school I was a great writer. I had some objective evidence of that. Everything I wrote I got good grades on, but that was a very different style of writing than
Mm-hmm.
writing appealing copy on your website. And so I would sit there and look at it and just be like, oh, this feels so foreign and so awkward.
Yeah.
And being able to use some of those tools made that a little less painful. And just really overhauling my website. I remember opening week one and it was kind of like, I feel like my website's pretty good. So maybe I'll just breeze through this section. I won't put a lot of work. And then I think, it wasn't soon before I had a whole page of edits and things that I want to work on, and looking at the copy I had and how it just really, well, obviously it wasn't performing because I get clicks on, right, not a lot of clicks on my website, but it wasn't
Right.
converting very well. So being able to revise that and kind of working through that discomfort and eventually gaining some momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Done is better than perfect was a mantra I really needed to hear,
Yeah.
because I would waste hours staring at things and trying to perfect one sentence, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to just looking at it and going, all right, it's good enough, can move on and just get this thing and get it up there and get it live.
Right. Right. So what I'm kind of hearing is that as far as impact goes, you have a little bit more of that consistency. Um, and almost a little bit more freedom too with your time because you have those processes in place and you can look back at the numbers. And it sounds like your copywriting has, improved and has started converting on your website. What would you say has been the biggest impact? And it can be in your practice or even personally as well.
Um, Well, actually, ironically, this morning, the reason I was running a little behind was taking my 6-year-old to an appointment. And when I go to appointments, I'm good at measuring out that time. When I have a 6-year-old in tow, I still, even 6 years into it, forget how much they distract me. So it's just being able to do things like that are just kind of carefree. I've got 2 little boys. And
Right.
so being able to be at home and just really present with them, and, I can, whatever emails are there, I'll get to them after they get to bed. And, I've got things that are running in the backgrounds that are, maintaining my business. And I don't need to look at every single second of every single day, and they're there and they're functioning. I can just come home and just be with my kids and my wife and enjoy that. And on a Friday morning, if I'm going to take him to an appointment and drop him off at school late, I can do that. I can do things like this, and just that amount of flexibility and removing that pressure kind of gnawing in the back of
Mm-hmm.
my mind that, I've got to do something isn't working, I've got to fix it, I've got to figure it out, and of course there's always things to improve upon and optimize. I'm still not an expert copywriter. I don't know that I ever will be. And, I'm sure I could go through and revise some things on my website, but knowing that they are good enough and those things are working, that's why I got into private practice, is having that flexibility, being able to do things with my kids and being able to go to lunch with a colleague or coffee with a colleague, and being able to do those things sort of carefree now and actually enjoy them and be present without worrying about, figuring things out and fixing things. That's been a huge relief. That's been a nice change.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely. I think it probably makes such a big difference when you feel kind of aimless, as you mentioned before, and you weren't quite sure what to work on or do a little bit here and a little bit there. It does always feel like even if you aren't working, you're still thinking about work and what you could be doing differently or, how to change things up, but having more of a
Yeah.
structure is really, really helpful
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely.
So I guess knowing that how much the program has impacted you what would you want other therapists to know, or what would you maybe want to say to someone who is thinking about joining Fully Booked or just starting out? What would your advice be?
I think I would echo a lot of what John says in the course. And I think he says this at the start of every module, that if you're here, make sure that you've done everything up until this point. So, I mean, really being thorough, everything that's in there, making sure that you're doing it all. I mean, I know that those are things I'm guilty of, and probably what took me so long to get to this point and, reach out and ask for help. Um,
Mm-hmm.
is just, thinking that I know better, or there's a different way to do it, or that one doesn't apply to me, I can skip that one. Don't do that. Everything that's in there, it's there for a reason. Google My Business, that was one, and I had claimed my Google My Business profile, or whatever you would call it. Hadn't really
Mm-hmm.
put a whole lot of work into it. I was like, all right, I'm there. It's accurate, whatever. And I got to that part of the course, and I was like, all right, I guess I've got some more work to do. And, I did exactly that, and I filled in all the lines. I added some extra pictures, and, it was really remarkable that there was like nobody clicking on it, nobody looking at it, and just those few edits, as simple as they were, but, not obvious. I think a lot of people don't do them. It made a considerable difference, or even a week or two later, there's suddenly people looking at it, they're clicking on it. I didn't think it would be a real referral source, and I put it out there, thought it would be useful nonetheless, but I've gotten a couple referrals through that one that were unexpected. Um, looking at my website, like just the idea of putting buttons everywhere, like I never thought about that. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like, all right, I bought into this, I've got faith, I'm trusting it. And my old website was not converting. This website is converting. So it's just all
Yeah.
the small details. Yeah, it's just really being thorough and doing it. And also trusting the process. And I don't know if this is more me or generalizable, but trusting myself to trust the process. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's, a lot of points where I could look at it and go, I don't know, is this working for other people? Is it going to work for me? And if, I start going down that path, that's not going to get anywhere good. But yeah,
Right.
just really trusting the process, trusting yourself to trust the process and be able to execute it.
Perfect. That's really good advice. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to add or anything about your experience that you would like to share?
Actually, one more thing that I think is a bit of advice. There's a Teddy Roosevelt quote that I love: "A comparison is a thief of joy." And that was
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm still guilty of it. And, in the past, I would always, in different therapist communities or forums I'm part of, I would always be comparing myself to other therapists. That got
Mm-hmm.
me nowhere good. And of course, I mean, I don't know what really goes on in their business. I don't know, what they're doing. I don't know how they're spending their free time. I don't know if it looks as good as I think it does in my head. And
Mm-hmm.
even in fully booked, looking at the results that other people get, like I've never had a week or, oh my God, I got 7 referrals or I got 10 people that called me. But,
Mm-hmm.
that's not my market. And that's not even necessarily what
Right.
I'm looking for. My goal was I want sort of the ideal guys that I want in my practice that I like working with, where I'm a good fit for them. They're a good fit for me. They're paying my full fee. And I mean, I think that's literally been every referral that I've gotten. And it's been consistent month in, month out. They're in there. Wasn't always the case in the past. Um, yeah, looking at it and just knowing my mind's tendency to compare and want to compare and trying not to indulge that and being able to take a step back and look at it and say, yeah, every client that I've gotten, it's been exactly who I'm looking for, more or less. And they've
Right.
all stuck and they've been consistent. And so even if it's not this explosive volume of referrals, which would have been nice, but the
Mm-hmm.
reality is that my preference would be that I'm getting the right kind of guys and the guys that are going to stick on, the right kind of clients that are who I'm looking for, and they're consistent.
Right, right. That's really good advice. I think we all can kind of get stuck in that comparison zone, and especially in, Facebook communities where, um, you sort of do see that highlight reel of this is going really well for me, this is
Yeah.
going really well for me, and it kind of makes you second guess yourself. But it is also good that I do see in the Facebook community that, a lot of people do share, what they are struggling with. And, you know, that is the purpose of the community, is to reach out and help people who are having a hard time, but also celebrate those wins as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I guess we will go ahead and wrap up, but we want to thank you for coming on and sharing your experience. And I know that it is really insightful for many of us and probably resonates with a lot of therapists in the group for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but we want to
Thanks for having
congratulate
me.
you on all your success, and we can't wait to see how you grow from here.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm happy. Glad to do it. It was fun.
Great. Well, thank you. So thank you to everyone who was watching the live video. If you were able to catch the whole thing, we will be sharing it later on the page, the full version, so you'll be able to catch that. If you want to know more about Robert and his practice, we'll drop his website link in the comments below. So you can reach out to him if you would like, kind of pick his brain if he didn't share enough in the video. We look forward to hearing from you all, and be sure to continue to share your fully booked wins, not only so we can kind of foster that sense of community and support each other and celebrate each other's wins, but also you could be have a chance to be featured for the next student spotlight. So keep sharing the wins and keep supporting each other, and we're always here to help. So thank you again, Robert, and we'll speak soon.
Cool. Thank you, Taylor.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care.